Mere days after publicly rebuking President Biden about classified documents and firmly denying that he had any himself, former Vice President Mike Pence surrendered his own batch of classified documents to the FBI. All right, so this one's a bit funny. Kind of like several of the other stories we've been covering lately, because once again the pendulum has swung back towards Republican hypocrisy and Republican incompetence. But news broke today that former Vice President Mike Pence found about a dozen classified documents at his Indiana home and surrendered them to the National Archives and FBI. Axios and CNN reported on the story. The FBI retrieved a small number of documents. CNN clarified it was about a dozen, with classified document markings from former Vice President's Carmel, Indiana home earlier this month, according to Mike Pence's personal attorney. Why it matters: the document discovery comes as both President Biden and former President Donald Trump are under investigation for their handling of classified documents. Pence has said previously that he didn't take any classified documents with him when he left office, okay? Especially after the news broke about President Biden's situation in particular. I think he reaffirmed those denials that he himself took any home. And it was CNN, according to Axios, which first broke the story. Following revelations about the discovery of classified documents at Biden's residence, Pence engaged lawyers to review documents at his personal home out of an abundance of caution, said Greg Jacob, Pence's counsel, to a letter that he wrote to the National Archives. Now, busting Pence's chops aside, this is probably a really, really good idea, and I imagine that many former executives and, vice presidents and whatnot are probably doing a thorough double-checking of their homes. It's probably a good idea. Based on the fact that this happened with Trump, then with Biden, then with Pence, I wouldn't be surprised if there were classified documents in, former President Obama's home. That's just speculation. Or, with Hillary and Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter perhaps. It's entirely possible because since the story broke with Biden in particular, you have had U.S. attorneys, former U.S. attorneys, federal prosecutors, people who are national security experts say that this stuff does happen. Like, I know it's, something that probably shouldn't happen, right? And it probably happens, much more often than we suspect. But according to them, this stuff happens quite a bit. The real issue is how the person handles it when they find documents in their possession, right? And of course, you should handle it the way that Joe Biden did, which is immediately contact the National Archives and the relevant authorities and turn them over. Unlike what Donald Trump did, which was, of course, lie and, give things out piecemeal when the Justice Department showed up with a subpoena, demanding that all classified documents and federal or government documents be returned to the National Archives. Trump and his team gave a few but kept others in defiance of that subpoena, and which precipitated the FBI going back with a search warrant and executing a raid, a lawfully required raid, right, based on a legal search warrant of Mar-a-Lago. Biden did it the exact opposite way, did it above board, and is continuing to be fully transparent. And based on reporting, it's actually, again, to give Pence credit here, he's done the same thing. So he did a search of his home out of an abundance of caution and found a dozen classified documents. Pence had been unaware of the presence of classified documents in his home, as President Biden has said about classified documents at his home and office at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C., but immediately secured the documents and directed his representatives to work with the archives to ensure their return, which is exactly what Biden did. So Pence is following the proper authorities, the proper Biden protocol. Now, I do want to play a clip here because it is funny. Again, just kind of noting the smugness with which Republicans tried to take a victory lap when this scandal broke with Biden. So here was Mike Pence on Larry Kudlow, however many weeks ago, commenting on the Biden situation. I think you should hear this.
Handling of classified materials and the nation's secret is a very serious matter. And as a former vice president of the United States, I can speak from personal experience about the attention that ought to be paid to those materials when you're in office and after you leave office. And clearly, that did not take place in this case. But the unequal treatment before the law was deeply troubling to me early this week.
So there again, you have Pence, commenting on the fact that essentially accusing President Biden of being reckless and negligent, and oh my God, you need to take care of these things, and there's supposed to be, prudence, due diligence involved. You guys need to be paying attention. That's what a responsible person would do. And by the way, the unequal treatment between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So essentially, what he was asking for at the time was the Justice Department to treat Joe Biden the way that they did Donald Trump, which was execute subpoenas and then a search warrant. And I guess by the transitive property of his logic, he's kind of setting himself up for that, right? Like, if the current president and former vice president finds documents in his possession and turns them over, he should still be treated as a former president who didn't do that, right? Who found documents and tried to keep them and conceal them and lie to authorities. Well, Mike Pence is a former vice president, kind of like how Joe Biden was. He's not even a sitting president now like Joe Biden is. And he found classified documents and did what Biden did. But based on his logic here, I guess the FBI should raid all of Pence's homes, right? Not just enter, voluntarily as he allowed them to, but actually go get a search warrant and, expose him to the same sort of public humiliation that Trump had to be put through because he wouldn't cooperate. I bet Pence won't go for that. I bet Pence is going to be like, well, okay, maybe not. Maybe people should be treated a bit different. Now, according to Republican James Comer of Kentucky, who chairs the House Oversight Committee, he's a name who's been popping up again and again and again in our videos. And since the new year started, he's going to be a major thorn in the Biden administration. He said that Pence did reach out to congressional authorities after, as the news was breaking, to let them know that documents were found. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this development. I do want to play one other clip. It's about Pence and Biden and Trump, really, but it's not of Pence. It's of a much more obnoxious Republican by the name of Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Let's hear what Ted has to say on the matter. Also, on Kudlow. Kudlow is our right-wing common denominator. So let's see what these two have to say on this issue.
Then this shifts from a political problem to a very serious problem of criminal liability and major crimes. And so the FBI needs to search the University of Delaware archives, and they need to search Hunter Biden's home and business addresses.
Just as an addendum to this, the news came out today, I'm sure you saw it, that former Vice President Mike Pence, a friend of both of ours, he's found some classified documents, I think at his home in Indiana, not in his office. What do you make of that? Is this different from the Biden story? Does this complicate the story? Are we going to continue the bull market in special counsels? I'd rather have a bull market in stocks than in special counsels. How do you see it, Senator Cruz?
Oh, look, the Mike Pence story, it's still early. Mike Pence, and as you noted, he is a good friend. He's a good man. He's explained where these came from. What his office has put out is that in packing up the vice presidential offices, that there were a couple of papers that were classified that were inadvertently put with non-classified materials. That was a mistake, but there's no reason to think it was anything but inadvertent. That is very different from what Joe Biden has done. Joe Biden has given zero explanation as to how these classified documents got there. And in particular, he has given no explanation as to how he has documents from his time in the Senate. Listen,
Yeah, so again, it's kind of interesting to see the double standard there. Obviously, all the details are not identical, right? These three situations, Trump, Biden, Pence, are not identical, right? If they were identical, you would be talking about the same number of documents with the same sort of information on it, located in the same places. There are differences between all three of these situations. The question is whether or not those differences are substantive and meaningful so as to merit different responses from the Justice Department and from the public. Donald Trump's is still by far the worst, right? Because the National Archives tried to get those documents out. He didn't surrender them. He wasn't proactive. He didn't come across them, notify the relevant authorities, or do anything like that. They had to pursue him. And not just in the initial contact. They had to pursue him again and again and again for nearly 2 years, trying to negotiate the return of these documents. And again, he gave a few back. Turns out he kept more. The FBI came back with a subpoena, demanded all of the documents. He gave them some more, and then sent them away again. And then they realized that there were even more missing, so they went and got a search warrant and raided Mar-a-Lago. So basically 3 contacts, setting aside all the emails and behind-the-scenes communication. The Justice Department or National Archives went to Trump 3 times, 3 separate times. And again, basically against Trump's will to do it. That wasn't the case with Biden. And that's not the case so far with Pence. And I'm not proposing that people rake Pence over the coals here. It's just interesting to point out the hypocrisy there, especially since Pence made the mistake of doing kind of what Biden did last year. And when Biden was asked during a 60 Minutes interview about Trump's handling of classified documents, and Biden just lightly chided Trump. He was just like, this is really irresponsible, and all these things. And here Pence did the same thing with Biden, basically calling him out on his irresponsibility. And then whoops, same thing, same sort of situation. He comes across classified documents as well. Cruz is, of course, bending over backwards to give Pence the benefit of the doubt simply because Pence has a little R next to his name as a Republican. But Pence doesn't deserve to be treated any better than Biden does. As a matter of fact, it's an interesting question as to whether or not Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, will appoint a special counsel in the Pence case. His justification for doing so with Trump was that Trump had announced that he was running for president and would be, not only as a former president, but would be a competitor, a rival, a peer in the next election cycle against the guy who is Garland's boss, President Joe Biden. And then he assigned a special counsel to President Biden. He didn't cite because Biden's intending to run in 2024. He just said that the public has a vested interest. But Mike Pence has also signaled that he's going to try to run for president in 2024. Ha 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 ha. He probably shouldn't, because I think he's polling lower than I am, and I'm not even in the running. You know what I mean? Like, very few people in the Republican Party in terms of the base like Mike Pence, because they see him as a traitor to Donald Trump. But anyway, if that's the rationale, that this guy's a former high executive and he has aspirations to run for president in 2024, if that was enough to get Trump a special counsel, then Pence basically qualifies too. So it will be interesting. We may very well have a situation where we have 3 simultaneous special counsels, one looking into the former president, one looking into the former vice president, and one looking into the current president. So we'll see where this goes. Hey, you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.